In the previous part, we have seen about the food chain, the food web. Now, in this particular part, we are going to understand one-way flow of energy. Now, see, we learned about the tropic levels, we learned about the energy pyramid. So, I just want to ask you one simple question. Can the same unit of energy be used again and again? What do you think? What have you to say? You should know that the answer is no. Energy behaves very differently from matter. We know that matter is recycled, but energy is not. This is one of the fundamental laws of ecology. See, when you look at the diagram, let me just take you there. When we look at this particular diagram, you can see that everything begins with the sun, right? So everything begins with the sun. The sun continuously supplies the energy. Now, this energy which is supplied by the sun to the earth is captured by the plants. Now, plants only capture a very small fraction of this sunlight through photosynthesis. Animals, to obtain this energy, they eat the plants or they also eat the animals. We know about the herbivores and the carnivores. We have discussed this. And finally, the decomposers break down the dead organisms. But notice something very important. At every step, a large amount of energy is lost as heat. At every step. So, once this heat escapes into the environment, it cannot return to the plants. Therefore, we say that energy moves only in one direction. From the sun, it moves to the plants. Check out here. From the sun, it moves to the plants. From the plants, it moves to the animals. From animals, it moves to the decomposers. And, my dear children, what you have to understand is they give out heat, they release heat. This is called as one-way flow of energy. So now, if you want a real life example, you know that the mobile, it drains. That is, once you use, once the battery is discharged, you cannot use the energy again. You have to recharge it. Similarly, every day the earth receives fresh energy from the sun. Without sunlight, life would stop. Now, the most important difference is uh, you have to remember this difference from the examination point of view. Energy is not recycled, nutrients are recycled. Many students confuse these two ideas, energy and, so always remember that it is energy that flows, but matter cycles. So you have to understand this. You must have realized that I always ask if a certain thing disappears, what do you think would happen? Like I asked in the beginning, only few things, like if rabbits disappeared, what would happen? Can you imagine if the sun only disappeared, what would happen? What do you think? How many days will life, live on the earth, continue on the earth? Think, because everything begins with solar energy. Remember. Now here on this slide I have shown the biogeochemical cycle. We move from flow of energy to the movement of matter. It is important for us. Unlike the energy, elements like carbon, nitrogen, carbon, nitrogen, all of these particular elements, they move. They move and they never disappear. So they keep moving between living organisms, air, water and soil. This continuous movement is called as biogeochemical cycle. Let's understand the word. Bio, means living organisms. Geo means the earth. Chemical means the elements. So, when I say a biogeochemical cycle, it is a movement of chemical elements between living organisms and the physical environment. Okay? So now let's check out in this diagram. What you see is, you see a carbon cycle, you see a nitrogen cycle, and you see a water cycle. Okay. So now you also see the phosphorus cycle. Now, although each follows a different pathway, they all have the same purpose. And what is the purpose? To recycle essential elements so that the life can continue. Okay. Now, it's like, the money in the city. Money moves from customers to shops, from shops to banks, from banks it comes back to the people. So it keeps circulating. Similarly, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, water, they keep circulating in nature. If these cycles stopped, life would stop. So plants would run out of nutrients, animals would they would not receive essential elements, and atmosphere would lose the balance. Therefore, these cycles maintain the Earth's stability is what you have to understand. So here I have shown you the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle. Here these particular cycles play a very important role is what you have to. Now check out here. When we are talking about the types of biogeochemical cycles, they are broadly divided into two categories. One is called as the gaseous category here, and the other is called as the sedimentary cycle. Now let us start with what is the gaseous cycle. What you have to understand is gaseous cycles, they move quickly because they have gases circulating over there. Okay, and you all know gases circulate very freely in the atmosphere. The other part, which is the sedimentary, you should know that they are very slow, and because rocks weather gradually over thousands of years, and this is the main difference between the gaseous cycle and the sedimentary cycle. So what I want you all to understand is this difference is to be understood properly, because many competitive examination questions they are asked on this particular uh, difference. And the next is, it is always easy to remember. Gaseous, when we talk of gaseous means atmosphere. And when we are talking of sedimentary is a rock. So it is easy to remember the types of cycle. Okay. After that, my dear children, let us move on to the carbon cycle. Now, when we are talking about the carbon cycle, first and foremost, remember carbon is the backbone of all living organisms. Just think, carbon is present in proteins, carbon is present in fats, carbon is present in carbohydrates, it is present in DNA. So you just cannot, imagine life without carbon. So let us just check out. See, carbon dioxide is present in the atmosphere. Now this carbon dioxide is absorbed by the plant with the help of photosynthesis. So, but it is in the presence of sunlight, right? Now using the sunlight, they convert this carbon dioxide into glucose. Now, animals obtain the carbon by eating plants, right? Animals obtain the carbon by eating plants. They also eat other animals. Now, when plants and animals respire, carbon dioxide returns back to the atmosphere. This is what you have to remember. Now, when organisms die, decomposers break them down. So some carbon returns to the atmosphere, some enters into the soil. Here, correct. So some enter into the soil. Over millions of years, some carbon becomes coal, some becomes petroleum, some becomes, natural gas. This is what we have to understand. We have to remember. Okay. So now, what you have to understand. This is one of the reasons behind global warming. More fossil fuel burning means more carbon dioxide. The more you burn the fossil fuels, the more carbon dioxide is formed. More carbon dioxide then traps more heat. This increases the Earth's temperature. So this is the real life connection what you have to understand. So just let's understand what we just discussed. Uh, CO2 from atmosphere moves into the plants. From plants to the animals respiration, they release carbon dioxide, so it goes back to the atmosphere again. It's as simple as that. This is about the carbon cycle. Let us move on towards the nitrogen cycle, my dear children. In the nitrogen cycle, you should know that 78% of the atmosphere contains nitrogen gas. Plants cannot use it directly. So nature has created one beautiful cycle which is called as the recycling system. Okay. Now, in the step 1, we consider the nitrogen fixation. Now, what is nitrogen fixation, my dear children? Special bacteria or lightning convert atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia. And this particular ammonia, here nitrogen is converted into ammonia. And this ammonia, uh, this particular step 2 is called as the nitrification. That is, other bacteria convert this ammonia into nitrites and nitrates. Okay. So, this ammonia is converted into nitrites and nitrates. Nitrite is NO2. Okay. Now, plants absorb these nitrates and plants absorb it from the soil, right? Animals obtain nitrogen by eating the plants. So, animals get it from the plants get it from the soil. But this is called that plants getting nitrogen from the soil is called as nitrogen fixation. And when organisms die or they excrete the waste, decomposers release nitrogen compounds back into the soil. So the cycle is complete. I hope you understand this. This is called as the nitrogen cycle. Importantly, remember proteins require nitrogen. DNA also requires nitrogen, and without nitrogen, plants cannot grow. So, without plants, the animals cannot survive. Therefore, nitrogen is very much essential for the life. Remember, nitrogen fixation is nitrification, and then the assimilation takes place, continuing with ammonification and then denitrification. This is what you have to understand. This is about the nitrogen cycle. Now let us move towards the oxygen cycle. Now here we have seen the nitrification, but in this particular picture it is more clear. It is shown in an expanded form, only the nitrogen cycle is shown over here. So you see that ammonia is formed, ammonia is converting into nitrite and nitrate. This is taken up by the plants. So this is what is called as the nitrogen cycle. Okay. Now let us move on to the oxygen cycle. Just look out here. What we have to understand is when we are talking about the oxygen cycle, remember every breath that you take depends on this cycle. Every breath you take, that is whenever you breathe, the breath, each breath is depending on this particular cycle. You all know plants release oxygen. They release oxygen during photosynthesis, right? So, during photosynthesis, plants release oxygen. You can see it is released to the atmosphere, right? Humans and animals inhale oxygen, right? So, you see that humans and animals, they inhale the oxygen. Now, we all know that they release carbon dioxide. Plants again absorb this carbon dioxide, right? They release the carbon dioxide and this is again inhaled by the plants. So, plants absorb carbon dioxide and they release oxygen. This is a very beautiful exchange, and this maintains the balance of the atmospheric gases. Now, oceans also contribute significantly because phytoplankton produce a large amount of Earth's oxygen. This is what you have to remember. Phytoplankton produces a large amount of oxygen. Okay, so now, my dear children, without photosynthesis, atmospheric oxygen would gradually decrease. Without oxygen, aerobic organisms would not survive. What are aerobic organisms? Aerobic organisms are the organisms which inhale in the presence of oxygen, that is, right? So, this is what you have to remember. So, without oxygen, aerobic organisms would not survive. Forests are often called as the lungs of the heart. Why? Because they release a lot of oxygen. So, now, what do you think? Do plants take in oxygen anytime? See, we are always, till date, we have been listening that plants release oxygen. Because of that, we get oxygen to inhale. We release carbon dioxide, exhale. Correct? This is what we have been listening. But do you think that plants in any way they take in oxygen? Yes, plants also respire. But during daylight, in the presence of sunlight, it always undergoes photosynthesis. And this is what is more important for you. So they release excess oxygen during the day. Okay, now let us have a quick comparison between carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen cycles. So, this is the final slide. Let us compare the 3 points perfectly. Remember, my dear children, carbon cycle mainly maintains the movement of carbon. Okay, carbon cycle mainly maintains the movement of carbon, and this is through photosynthesis. It is also through respiration. It is through decomposition and through combustion. I repeat, carbon cycle maintains the movement of carbon through photosynthesis, respiration, decomposition, and combustion. Very important. Okay. After that, the nitrogen cycle converts atmospheric nitrogen into forms that plants can use, and therefore it returns to the atmosphere through the bacteria. Oxygen cycle, you all are aware, it maintains the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide through photosynthesis and respiration. Now these cycles, they're all different, but they are totally closely interconnected. Plants absorb the carbon dioxide and they release oxygen. Animals use oxygen and they release carbon dioxide. Plants require nitrogen to make proteins and enzymes that help them grow and carry out photosynthesis. Okay? So together these cycles maintain life on Earth. Think of them as three members of the same team. If one cycle is disturbed, the others get affected as well. Now, my dear students, today we have completed one of the most fascinating chapters in biology. We discovered that nature is not random. It is perfectly balanced system. We learned about the ecosystems. We learned about the producers, consumers, decomposers, food chains, food webs, trophic levels, energy pyramid, and finally, I explained to you all what is the meaning of one-way flow of energy. We explored how carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen continually, they're continuously, it is their cycle through the nature, and they make life possible. Remember two golden statements. Energy flows, matter cycles, and the first slide I began with, nature wastes nothing. Everything is connected. So now, my dear children, next time you see a tree, a bird, a river, or even a handful of soil, remember that each is playing a role in keeping our planet alive. Thank you for learning with Goalguru. If this lesson helped you understand the chapter deeply, share it with your friends, solve the chapter questions, and continue learning with us. Knowledge grows when it is shared. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please remember, at Goalguru, we don't just study science, we learn to see the world scientifically. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next masterclass. Thank you. Thank you very much.